Dude, what a day. Right? Like, all I can say is none of that, none of today was on my bingo card. Right? Just absolute surprise. Dude, like, what the hell? Today was the craziest shit. Okay, so out of the blue, there was no announcement. Melania comes in and is like, I have no relations with Jeffrey Epstein. I never touched Jeffrey Epstein 𝗙𝗶𝗍. Nobody. Melania, I did not have relations with Jeffrey Epstein. Dude, that's literally what happened. And then everyone on the news was like, why? Why did she make that statement? Is she trying to get ahead of a story that's coming? I mean, it's possible that Benjamin Netanyahu said, hey, if you don't keep the war going, I'm going to release some videos, right? Does Netanyahu have some videos, or Putin? Is somebody threatening them? Did they get hacked? I mean, dude, we don't know, okay? We do not know, but something's bizarre. A statement by First Lady Melania Trump. And guys, nobody requested, nobody asked. It's like, hey, what are you doing today? Oh, by the way, I never had relations with the Jeffrey Epstein 𝗙𝗶𝗍. All right, here we go. Dude, what is it? Dude, like 3 minutes? 5 minutes of... Dude, it's not even 11 minutes, dude. It's 5 minutes of "will begin shortly." Dude, what is she, rehearsing the walk or what? Jesus. Dude, what a fucking disaster.
Good afternoon. The lies linking me with the disgraceful Jeffrey Epstein need to end today. The individuals lying about me are devoid of ethical standards, humility, and respect. I do not object to their ignorance, but rather I reject their mean-spirited attempts to defame my reputation. I never been friends with Epstein. Donald and I were invited to the same parties as Epstein from time to time, since overlapping in social circles is common in New York City and Palm Beach. To be clear, I never had a relationship with Epstein or his accomplice, Maxwell. My email reply to Maxwell cannot be categorized as anything more than casual correspondence. My polite reply to her email doesn't amount to anything more than a trivial note. I am not Epstein's victim. Epstein did not introduce me to Donald Trump. I met my husband by chance at a New York City party in 1998. This initial encounter with my husband is documented in detail in my book, Melania. The first time I crossed paths with Epstein was in the year 2000 at an event Donald and I attended together. At the time, I had never met Epstein and had no knowledge of his criminal undertakings. Numerous fake images and statements about Epstein and me have been circulating on social media for years now. Be cautious about what you believe. These images and stories are completely false. I'm not a witness or a named witness in connection with any of Epstein's crimes. My name has never appeared in court documents, depositions, victim statements, or FBI interviews surrounding the Epstein matter. I have never had any knowledge of Epstein abuse of his victims. I was never involved in any capacity. I was not a participant, was never on Epstein's plane, and never visited his private island. I have never been legally accused or convinced of a crime in connection with Epstein sex trafficking, abuse of minors, and other repulsive behavior.
Convinced of a crime.
False smears about me from mean-spirited and politically motivated individuals and entities looking to cause damage to my good name, to gain financially and climb politically, must stop.
Oh.
My attorneys and I have fought these unfounded and baseless lies with success and will continue to maintain my sound reputation without hesitation. To date, several individuals and companies have been legally obligated to publicly apologize and retract their lies about me, such as Daily Beast, James Carville, and HarperCollins UK.
Now, by the way, you notice she didn't mention Michael Wolff, right? She didn't mention Hunter Biden. I mean, there were a couple people that she threatened and they immediately apologized because they didn't want to get into it. But there are some people that would go to court. I believe Michael Wolff is suing her right now. And Carville, what a pussy, dude. I'm sorry, James Carville, what a clown, dude. He took down the YouTube video. He is such a, what a moob, dude. That guy, right? But she has not won any court cases. There were a couple people she threatened. It was HarperCollins, that was the guy who wrote the book where he said Epstein introduced Melania to Trump, and HarperCollins took it out of the book. They didn't want to get into it. Carville reported on that. That was the same thing. Same with Daily Beast. But nobody has been sued. There's been no winning in court. There's just been her trying to be a bully, and a couple people have folded, and then other people have been like, screw you. And so, just to put it in context.
Now is the time for Congress to act. Epstein was not alone.
Watch this, though.
Several prominent male executives resigned from their powerful positions after this matter became widely politicized. Of course, this doesn't amount to guilt, but we still must work openly and transparently to uncover the truth. I call on Congress to provide the women who have been victimized by Epstein with a public hearing specifically centered around the survivors. Give these victims their opportunity to testify under oath in front of Congress with the power of sworn testimony.
See, again, though, what does she want from those survivors? She wants to put them up there and ask the handful of them, oh, did Donald Trump do anything? No, he didn't. Thank you very much. Right? I mean, dude, there's hundreds. Okay? Where's Katie Johnson? Yo, Katie, get in here. Right? Oh, they're probably not going to go looking for Katie Johnson. Yeah, they want to parade the victims and do the same shit they did with the Clintons, which is to try and exonerate Trump.
Each and every woman should have her day to tell her story in public if she wishes, and then her testimony should be permanently entered into the congressional record. Then, and only then, we will have the truth.
The truth.
Thank you.
Dude, and then no questions. So, dude, Melania comes out. She reads this crazy statement about Epstein, and then she walks away and does not answer a single fucking question. And everyone was like, what the hell was that, dude? I mean, this was very Watergate, where people are divulging information, right? Like there's this scene in All the President's Men where the guy's talking to his editor and he says, Haldeman said, I had nothing to do with the Watergate break-in. And he's like, well, wouldn't you expect him to say that? And he's like, yeah, but I never asked him about Watergate. I just asked him, what did he do for the president? What was his job? And he just said, I had nothing to do with the Watergate break-in. And they were like, yeah, that's weird, right? You're just asking him a basic question about his job, and he starts, proffering up information that, no, he did not do the Watergate break-in, right? That's what Melania just did. She did that scene from All the President's Men where it's like, yo, this chick is guilty.
This came out of left field for us here covering the White House. The press shop did not give us any insight into what this announcement would be about. That's typical. Oftentimes, the First Lady doesn't share a lot of details with the White House communications shop that covers the president on what her announcements might be. We didn't, for instance, get a lot of details ahead of her prior announcement on her efforts bringing home Ukrainian children. But similarly, we had no heads up on this. We're not getting any information from them now, including whether or not the president was aware she would be making this statement. It's unclear to us if she is reacting to something or that's already happened, already come out, or getting ahead of a story that might be about to drop. We don't really know. And the content of what she's calling for, this congressional hearing to allow the victims to, openly testify about what they witnessed is new, and it will certainly breathe new life into this story that has, in large part, not been, at the top of the news cycle lately. The attention here has been on other matters. So this brings the sort of public interest back to the Epstein story.
Again, the survivors said, just release the files. The survivors made a statement because Melania went in there at the end, was like, I want all the survivors to come up in front of Congress and put their stories on the congressional record. But what they want to do is they want to use the women as a way to exonerate themselves and Trump, because most of these women are not involved at all with Donald Trump. Okay, Donald Trump was like years before. These were mostly after Donald Trump. But here's the deal, though, guys. Trump and Melania, they have all the files. They've only released like 5% of these files. They could release all the files, and then we'd know everything. So, why don't you just release the shit you have? Statement by survivors in response to Melania Trump. Survivors of Jeffrey Epstein have already shown extraordinary courage by coming forward, filing reports, and giving testimony. Asking more of them now is a deflection of responsibility, not justice. First Lady Melania Trump is now shifting the burden onto survivors under politicized conditions that protect those with power. The Department of Justice, law enforcement, prosecutors, and the Trump administration, which has still not fully complied with the Epstein Files Transparency Act. It also diverts attention from Pam Bondi, who must answer for withheld files and the exposure of survivors' identities. Those failures continue to put lives at risk while shielding enablers. Survivors have done their part. Now it's time for those in power to do theirs. Signed, Danielle Bensky, Liz Stein, Mari K. Chartouni, Amanda Roberts, Sky Roberts, Jane Doe, Charlene Richard, Jess Michaels, Jane Doe, Maria Farmer, Laura Bloom McGee, Rachel Benavides, Juliet Rose Bryant, and Marina Lacerda. Dude, that I think is a great statement. They're like, wait a second. It's not on us. We've already done the depositions. We've gone to court. We've given our statements to the FBI. You have all the files. You have all the information. Comply with the Epstein Files Transparency Act and call up Pam Bondi. Find out why she doxed survivors and why she hid people that were criminally involved in this thing. You know, it's not up to these survivors. They don't have to go in front of Congress and say the same shit that's in the unreleased files just so you can try to ask them questions about Donald Trump because none of these women were involved with him.
Yeah, Nicole, that is the question that we're all asking today. In fact, I just got off a very quick call before we went to air with President Trump, who said he was in the middle of a war meeting and that he couldn't talk for very long and had to go, but that actually he had no prior knowledge to the topic that Melania Trump, his wife, was going to be touching upon today in his statement. In her statement, he then repeated that he had to go, but before we hung up the phone, he said that she didn't know him, presumably referring to Jeffrey Epstein.
So there you go. So they did call Trump and they talked to Trump and Trump said, I'm in a war meeting. And then he said at the very end of the call, she didn't know him. Okay, now that's a problem because she definitely knew him. Bro, we know you know Epstein. Everybody knows you know Epstein. There's like a million photos of you guys. There's more photos of Melania with Epstein than there are Trump with Barron. Is she trying to get ahead of a story or what, dude? She says she wants women to testify. Katie Johnson, yo, you busy? Come on, Katie. Let's go. Grab your popcorn, people. Dude. Yo, Katie. Yeah, Katie, get in here, baby. We got some testifying to do. Dude, let's go. Dude, I was blown away, guys, by this today. It was like, because it was so unexpected. And, you know, I am very curious to see what happens in the future with this. If Melania, like, is she getting ahead of something? I mean, there's been talk, guys, about photos. Michael Wolff has talked about photos. People have talked about, you know, people have definitely talked about videos. There are terabytes. There's like terabytes of video. And at the end of the day, though, they can release the files. They still have not complied with the law. Okay? They are still breaking the law. They are breaking the law, guys. And it looks like he fired Pam Bondi to prevent her from going in front of the oversight committee. But I tell you what, they're not going to get away, guys. They are not going to get away. I'm telling you, this has already seen the light. I don't think it's going away, guys. I think this one is going to be like, it's going to be hounded. What is up, guys? Thank you so much for watching. You like the video, you want to support independent resistance media, you know what to do. Drop that sub, hit the like button, and please share it. And we do love our members, so if you want to become a member, it's another really great way to support. Thanks again for everything, guys. I'll see you next time. Let's go.